Thank you guys for inviting me here. This is awesome. So just a little bit about my background. I was born and raised in South Seattle, Rainier Beach area. And I come from a family, everybody was mechanics and roofers. And for some reason, I just couldn't really do that very well. And I was out helping my dad one time in the garage, thinking that I'm just gonna be a mechanic like he is. And I was jacking up a car and the car fell. And my dad, he's like, "You can't fix anything but breakfast." Because I was cooking a lot, too. So I decided that day I would go try something else. And I went and got a job as a dishwasher at the Blue Max restaurant downtown. And then, well, it's a typical story. A lot of, like as you were saying, a lot of guys in the industry start as a dishwasher and then you slowly move up. Well, I moved my way up and I was cooking at a place called Daniel's Broiler. I don't know if you guys have ever eaten there, but down in Leschi. Yeah. And it was funny. It was so perfect. I was making $4 an hour and I had my Walkman on. I was doing dishes. I was so happy just being there. I didn't think about even wanting to be a cook. And at the Daniel's we were at, a yacht pulls up and they knew a couple of the cooks that were working with me. And they just quit. They just ran off the job. They went and jumped in this boat. And so the chef is like, "Hey man, you're over here. You're on salads." Like that was my first promotion. So, and then I started getting really, really fast and really good at it. And people were saying, "Man, you're kind of good at this. You should take it serious." And so I decided to go to chef school, and I went to South Seattle Community College. Gosh, graduated in 1993, many pounds ago. And so I got a job there. And I ended up working for, I know you need a lot of napkins, sorry. I was working for a company called Lowell Hunt Catering, and they were those same chefs that were at Daniel's. They had broken off, started their own business. And we literally started out of somebody's apartment building. Like we had no equipment, we didn't have anything, but we all knew we were good chefs, and we kind of tricked a lot of people. We made a lot of, like flyers and all this stuff, and we were kind of selling ourselves, and finally a couple organizations took a gamble. We did a couple lunches, and then one thing led to another, and pretty soon we were catering for Bill Gates, and I was the first one to ever turn on Bill Gates' oven at his house. I was pretty happy about that. And a few 4, 5, 6 years go by, we're become one of the top caterers in the Seattle area. And during all this time, so this is where the Mariners come in. So I'm running I'm the executive sous chef of this really high-end catering business now, and we're all these huge contracts. And I get down to the Seattle Mariners just to go to a game. One of our fellow employees had a cousin who worked in the locker room. And you guys are you guys Mariner fans? Is anybody? Okay, good. So you guys know the whole story of Edgar and the whole 95 story. So this is probably 1990, I don't know, it's around that time. I go down to the game, my good friend Rodney, and he has a cousin who helps us get into the locker room after the game. And you guys gotta understand, I am the biggest fan. I mean, I am freaking out right now that I have access to the players, and who cares about cooking at Bill Gates' house? I'm in the locker room with the Seattle Mariners. And we're in there, we're just trying to get autographs and just trying to be in there. And back in those days, the security wasn't like it is today. If you got past the security guard and you're in the clubhouse, they just assume that somebody let you in, so you're okay to be there. So Edgar Martinez is on third base, or he tries to steal third base, because it was a long time ago if Edgar's trying to steal a base. He gets tagged out. So imagine this, okay? Edgar gets tagged out, and he walks off the TV screen, and then he walks in the room. And he sits right next to me, right? And I'm trying to be cool. I'm just like, "Oh man, that's Edgar Martinez," And he's like, "Hello, I'm Edgar, nice to meet you." And I'm talking to him during the game in the Kingdom, and I'm just tripping out. I'm talking to Edgar Martinez. This is so wild. And so the security guard sees me talking with Edgar, so that gave me clearance to be there. So it was just, I should not have been in this position. So long story short, I'm hanging out and meeting players, and people started going, who are you? And I'm just like some dude in the clubhouse, Well, the players, when they come out of the locker room, they take a shower and they go right to a buffet. And the food at that time, they didn't really have a facility. So the food had been brought in a hot box, kind of like the food today. I apologize, but it just been sitting there a long time. And I literally had just cooked at Bill Gates' house like a couple days prior. And I just said, this is what the Seattle Mariners are eating. It kind of blew my mind that they weren't having steak and lobster and, just something you would imagine. So I went up to the clubhouse manager and I said, hey, I'm a chef, man. I would love to cook for the team. And he was like, who are you? How'd you get in here? And then I was like, no speak English. I started I was like, oh man, I just got myself in trouble. So anyway, as he's escorting me out, he, kind of forcefully, he's like, you're not supposed to be in here. And I just said, hey, if you ever want some food, I said, I know I could do better than what you got. That's all. And then I gave him my business card. And then I was escorted out and, thinking I'll never get back there again. So fast forward the next year, I get this call. It had to be, my years are confused now. I apologize, but I'm just getting old. But I get a call, and it's Scott Gilbert. They're about to open Safeco Field. This is 1999. I believe it's July 15th. So this call came on like July 12th. And he goes, hey, man, I still need a cook down here. Are you interested? And he said, I'll give you the first homestand. And I just got freaked out, and I went down, and Rodney helped me. We had ice carving brought in. I mean, we made it look like a wedding. We had bacon wrapped shrimp and towers of food. It was this beautiful spread. And the Mariners looked at this guy, Scotty, saying, wow, this guy, he spent all this money on it, So he started getting tips from the Mariners. So then the light bulb hit him. He's like, if I provide better food, they're going to take care of him. So everybody wins. And I get to cook for the Mariners for nothing anyway. So anyway, he decided to hire me. And that was 18 years ago. I'm still there. So that's how I got it rolling. And so then back to the business part of it. So then I ended up leaving that high-end business, or the high-end catering business, to do the Mariners, but the Mariners are only 6 months. So I was like, what am I gonna do? Who's gonna hire me just for 6 months? And so I was like, well, I'll start my own business. And I didn't know if that was a good idea or not. I was really nervous, and pretty much every person that I asked, how much money do I need? And they all said, you can't do it. You need about $30,000. Nobody would give me a loan. And I'm still living at home with my parents, So I went down, I paid $32, and I got a business license. And I didn't know it was that cheap at the time. I was like, oh man, I got a business, now what? Then I got some business cards, and then I started, so my reputation, I had a good chef reputation around town, but nobody really knew I had my own business. So I had to kind of do some door-to-door stuff, and one of my first big clients was Libby Armentrout, who was Bill Gates' sister, and she would sometimes have me at their home cook dinners for them. And so I just said, hey, I'm starting my own business. And so she hired me, and it was so funny because I was cooking out of my house, and she didn't know that. And she was like, I'm so excited to see your kitchen. And I was like, oh, it's way south. Like, it's way down there. You don't want to go. I didn't want to tell her. So imagine this. I'm cooking for the Mariners during the season, and then the off season, I'm cooking for these high-end clients, these really extravagant dinners, but I'm literally just doing it out of my house in my Subaru. That's all I had. And my partner Kenny and I, we went, do you guys remember a restaurant called Boston Market? Well, for some reason, they all went out of business around, all like at one time, they all just shut down. I don't know the story, but they had like these auctions, and we got all kinds of equipment for really cheap. We had we scrounged together like $800, and I had like one of those rotisserie ovens you get at Costco with crazy equipment that we couldn't even connect it at my house. And so I scrounged around equipment, and even at the time, so imagine this, the Mariner executives would come down into my kitchen, and they're like, hey, could you cater my wife's birthday party? And I'm like, sure, yeah, and so I would use the Mariner kitchen for that stuff. And for all this time, nobody knew I had nothing really. I just had my name and reputation. That was pretty much it. And so I would cater these events, and then Kenny and I decided to turn my garage at my house into a full commercial kitchen. And we bought a hood system, everything used. And so if I blindfolded you and put you in my garage at my house, from the outside it just looks like a garage, but you open it up and it was like, oh, like white kitchen with stainless everywhere. And, it's just kind of proud of that part of it. But anyway, so I went like, I would say 7, 8 years growing the business. You get a wedding and people are like, oh my gosh, that was great, and never met anybody at my facility. I'm like, oh, I'll come to you. I'll come, I never wanted to let people know I was cooking out of my house. I even had a story on Evening Magazine they did, and they wanted to come to my kitchen. And I was like, damn it. I was like, oh, geez, what am I gonna do? So we did it, but I just told them not to tell everyone else that and so it was actually approved by the health department and everything. But what ended up happening was we started getting so busy that semi-trucks were coming down and doing food deliveries. And my neighbors were like, what is going on over there? I'd have 7 or 8 prep cooks in my kitchen, and it's just this secret garage. I was like, what the heck's going on in there? And so somebody called the code enforcement on me. And then what's interesting is there was no laws written about having a catering company at your home. There was laws written about having a restaurant at your home. You got to have, his and hers bathrooms, and you got to have all these railings and all this parking spots. But for catering, they were stuck because they didn't know. So I was able to keep going a couple more years until they finally said, okay, you guys got to move out. So in the meantime, I'm still cooking for the Mariners, still doing these caterings, growing my business, and we decided to lease a medical building down in the Tukwila area, and it had a little restaurant at the bottom. Serve soup and sandwiches, cater out the back door. Now this is where my story leads to, I wish I had known Tom back then, or because I didn't know about these helpful business resources and stuff, and I just needed a place to get. I had so many parties to do. I needed a place right away. I went in and met with this guy. I signed a lease, and my business plan was sell sandwiches and soups and lattes to the building, but cater out the back door. They don't need to know what I'm catering. I mean, when I had all that equipment that I still owned, and we had everything ready, everything purchased, and after I signed the lease, we were there a couple months, and we were literally cooking on George Foreman grills and the little clicker, butane burners, and I was doing parties for 300 people. I mean, we would have to do going through a lot of butane, and so I told the landlord, I said, I gotta shut down for a week and install all my equipment. And he goes, I decided I don't want to let you cater out of here. And I was like, but I just signed a 5-year lease, paying $3,600 a month at the beginning, and then and I was just like, but I only make $200-300 a day doing sandwiches. And he was like, sorry, do what you got to do, but you're not catering here. And I just, first of all, I was shocked that somebody would do that to somebody and later on we found out that that's what he did to everybody. That was his business, is to go around and get startups and just get people where he sues everybody. And the guy's a millionaire, he has no kids. He's just one of those kind of people. Money's everything, I guess. So I guess the point of my story is I wish I would have had more time and read the lease agreement, because the lease agreement had, what do you call it, a personal guarantee. So whenever you guys bought cars and houses and stuff, when you're signing all this paperwork, I mean, do you really read all that stuff? Well, there was a tiny little thing that said, if your business goes out of business, then you're personally responsible for this lease. And we were only there a couple months, and running out of money fast, paying a ton of money that weren't generating any money. I'm turning down caterings because I don't have the equipment to do it. And so I just told the guy, we got to move out, you're draining us. And so he ended up suing me for future rent. So we paid him for all the time we were there, but since we had a 5-year lease, we ended up, it was some astronomical number, like $380,000 of rent that he's not gonna get, because when we're there, and I ended up losing my house. My business partner lost his house. I mean, we were just completely down. We lost everything. And it was just a major, major lesson, of course, like the hard knocks, like, you know. I mean, you know, you're like ready to give up. And I don't know if I told you this yet, Tom, but the Mariners never knew that. I'm always like, oh, everything's great, you know, just, they didn't know that was happening, but somehow they found out, and the players kind of passed the hat around, and they helped me, and you know, it was really cool. They came up with like 10 grand, to just kind of, because I was done. I had zero money left. My house was getting, you know, I was getting kicked out. It was really, really hard times, but, so, anyway, I don't want to make it a big sob story, but I've learned like what not to do. So if you guys ever have a question, just please call me. Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, but so anyway, during that time, we're in transition. Now I have storage units full of equipment. The phone is still ringing. I have still a good reputation. I'm still cooking for the Mariners when they're in town, but I don't have a kitchen. And I'm just like, oh, we're going back to which is now my brother's house. I sold him the house, and there's all kinds of lowriders in the kitchen that used to be. so he's doing hydraulics, and I'm making, you know, grilling salmon. It's just crazy. So we get into you guys remember the Spirit of Washington, the dinner train? Well, the dinner train, they stopped the train, and I don't know the whole reason. Then they were catering this event center down in Renton, the Renton Pavilion Event Center. And they told somebody they needed a renter. They had this huge kitchen, so we started renting kitchen space from them. And it's a whole nother story, but the owner of that company, he lived in Yakima, and he wasn't really there watching his business. So the guys who were running his business, it was just a cash cow. There was just so many caterings coming in, catering for the big event center. And they had done some pretty shady things. They had started their own bank account. So they would cater some events, pay him a little money, keep him happy, and then they'd pocket some events. And then, so this is where it kind of comes down on me in a sense, where the owner just happened to come in town one day, and he comes in the kitchen and he's like, hey, who are you? I was like, oh, I'm Jeremy, man, Ringside Catering, you know, chef of the Mariners, and I'm just renting space here. And then he goes, really, who do you pay it to? I was like, well, I pay it to this guy. And he goes, yeah, he's the owner. Yeah, I'm telling him that he's the owner, but really he's the owner, you know, the guy who's coming in. So they were telling me the whole time they own this company. They were just collecting rent off of me, cash, you know. So anyway, the owner, of course he gets all upset. He realizes these people have been taking advantage of him. He decides to end the business. He's like, you know what, I don't need that business. I'm done. But here's this huge kitchen full of incredible equipment. I mean, a dream kitchen for someone like me. And we were literally just renting a little corner of the kitchen. Well, many people have already paid their deposits for the event center. Like weddings had given deposits. People were planning to have their events, big events at this place. And he was just gonna end them, and they would all lose their deposit. So I said, hey, I'll do it. I'll do those parties even without the deposit. And then he's like, all right. And then he decided it would be a hassle to sell everything. So he just gave us a really good deal on everything. Like we have China glassware, plates, forks, knives for like 1,000 people. You know, he gave it to us as like super dirt cheap. And it was easy for him. He washed his hands of the business. And this great thing happened to us. It was like such a blessing. We paid everything off in a couple years. So now I have way too much equipment, and we have this event center, and now the business is up and flowing. We just went with the accountant yesterday. We hit over $1 million, which is like a big deal. So things are rolling now. We have I have 7 full-time employees, you know, tons of part-time employees, and we were talking earlier about getting the right people. Like, I'm terrible at sales, because if you call me and you give me a sob story about you don't have a lot of money, I'll be like, all right, you know, steak and lobster, $10. We'll just do it, you know. So now I have people who answer the phones for me, because I'm like, I kicked myself out of the sales department. So anyway, so I have the catering going. I still do the Mariners, and we also do the visiting side of the Mariners. So now we're cooking for both teams, which is hard for me because I don't care about the other teams. I'm such a Mariner fan. So if like they run out of garlic or something, I don't give them anything. I'm just like, nah. Or Mariners get prime rib and they'll get like flank steak or something, you know. So that's just kind of the whole breakdown and the ups and downs. And so now things are on the up right now, and it's good. And the Mariners, I have a meeting with them next week because ever since when I started, the budget was $400 a day. So imagine that. I had to feed 50 guys, pay myself and a helper, and you buy all the food, and then whatever was left over that's my pay. So I would literally do 15-hour days and make like $30. But I was cooking for the Mariners, you know, it was cool. But on the flip side, the Mariners also, they call it handshake day, or at the end of the season, each player comes up to you and they go up to everyone who works in the locker room, and you get a handshake and a hug, and usually there might be a little surprise in there for you, you know, and sometimes it's $100. You know, Cano gave everybody $10,000 last year, you know. You just never know what you're gonna get. I didn't make that list, by the way. It was missing a zero, but I'm talking to Cano about that. But the cool part is I guess my point is I don't really do that all for the money. And I've come to realize, like, I've worked in so many famous homes and seen all this stuff, but whatever you do in your life, you got to really be happy doing it, and you got to make sure, you know, I don't do it for the money. When the money comes, that's awesome, and it's helpful, but I'm happy to go to work every day. I think that's the biggest part. And the Mariner job itself is so fun because every day I get to work and, you know, I've walked into my kitchen and Snoop Dogg's in there, you know, just like random famous people just hanging out. Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam, or, you know, you meet so many cool and famous people, and then the players they're all from all parts of the country and even different countries, but Carlos Silva would fly my entire company to Minnesota, and we would cook there for a week for him, and, you know, just crazy experiences that, you know, you just would never get. So it's definitely a fun group because they have famous, wealthy friends who, I mean, all I know is I could never afford a caterer. I'm a caterer, so. Yeah, so it's kind of strange. So the Mariner kitchen has no structure. It's always open. You can get anything from corn dogs to caviar. Like, it's a huge array of food, and you have all the different nationalities, and so we get there about 8 in the morning, start cooking. The kitchen's small. I mean, my whole kitchen's like the size of this table. It's really small. So, yeah, you know, I have to shop every day. I shop that morning, and then the players start rolling in, and you get guys who come at 9 in the morning for a 7 o'clock game at night, and you get guys who come at 3 p.m. Like Felix will get there right before the game starts, you know, because he can do that because he's Felix. So, but guys will have breakfast, then you cook for them, whatever, then they go work out and they study film or whatever, and then you do lunch, and then we have a team, we call it pregame meal or batting practice meal. So they all come out of batting practice, and everybody eats. It's supposed to be a lighter meal, but it's a huge spread. And then after the game, we have Thanksgiving dinner, like every night. It's just like, you know, prime rib, steak, I mean, it's all kinds of stuff, just anything you can imagine. So they eat very well. And, but the nutrition has become a big deal as we get smarter, as, you know, and people are learning more and more about nutrition. The Jay Buhner and Ken Griffey days, if I made quinoa, those guys would have threw it at me. You know, they'd be like, what the heck is this? They don't want to eat healthy stuff, you know. But now the younger players coming from Tacoma, they're teaching them about nutrition, and I've had to learn a lot about cooking healthier and turkey bacon and stuff like that. I mean, we've had all these scenarios where I cooked the whole team turkey bacon one time, and you would have thought I was about to get killed. Like, they were like, what the heck is this cardboard crap? That's the tough part about the Mariners, is you got to have thick skin, because my kitchen is in the locker room. So I could see Felix's, I got to see him change when he's changing. I'm cutting stuff, and he's like naked, like right there. But the players are always interacting in the kitchen, and if they don't like something, they will tell you publicly, man, Jay, there's too much garlic, this sucks, you know, or something like that, you know. But then you're the hero or the zero. If we win, they think that it was the lasagna I made or something. So it's definitely, there's no real structure. People eating at all different times, and yeah.
What's your favorite player?
Oh man, there's so many. You know, Jamie Moyer, Dan Wilson, John Olerud, get this, you guys, this is a crazy story. John Olerud, you guys remember John Olerud, right? Went to Washington State. Just a great, great human being. He was in a contract year, and I usually don't interact with the front office, like the Chuck Armstrongs and the head guys. They come down once in a while. So there's a big meeting with Chuck Armstrong and John Olerud. Chuck Armstrong comes down, he goes, I got to meet this Chef Jeremy. Who are you? And how long, he's asking me, the first time I ever met him. I've been there for a few years. Anyway, I guess John Olerud was signing his contract, and he made the Mariners, he said, I'm not going to sign with you unless you guarantee that Chef Jay will be there every day and make those butterflake rolls that I make for him every day. And it became part of his contract. I'm like, because John Olerud loved these rolls, and you guys, I'll tell you the secret right here. You go to the Franz Bakery outlet, and they have the butterflake rolls, the little yellow ones. Yeah. I just take honey butter, and I'd put gloves on, and I'd rub butter all over them, and that was it. That's just honey and butter. But John Olerud thought that I was just like baking them from scratch, like right in there. And anyway, that was like the deal that sealed it for, and so all the front office management came down, and they were like, your rolls saved the team and all this stuff. And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. Just it's just silly stuff that happens down there. But yeah, so anyway, I've had lots of crazy, crazy interactions with players, and I never regret being there. It's one of the hardest jobs because you're there 15 hours minimum. If there's a Mariner game on, I start early and I get off late. So I honestly haven't had a summer in 18 years now. So that's the tough part, because you're stuck in that little kitchen, and it's tucked down underground. You don't see outside. But the payoff is, and here's one more benefit to the job that hasn't really happened yet. But if the Mariners, let's say they were to get lucky and go to the playoffs, just the playoffs alone, every employee that works down there, and there's only like 12 of us. You got the laundry guys, the bat boys, the cook, all those people. It's called a playoff share, and each player, the players go into a room, they take a vote, and they say, okay, we're going to give this guy this much, because one share is worth like $80,000. So like the chef who works for the Giants, in 5 years they went to 3 World Series. Every World Series he got $330,000 as a thank you check. You know what I mean? Like life-changing bonus. And so every year my wife is like, are you going to do the Mariners? And I'm like, what if they go to the World Series? I'm like, I can't quit now. We're looking good. So imagine this. Was it 2 years ago? Maybe 3 years ago. The Mariners were 1 game out to making the play. And so the first round is 80,000. Second round is 150. World Series is 300,000. Everybody gets, it's crazy, right? So I'm like 1 day away from getting an $80,000 check. Well, I'm thinking. And the players aren't supposed to tell you that they voted for you. If they don't like you, they give you $50. It doesn't matter. It just kind of depends. So Willie Bloomquist calls me. He goes, hey, Jay, I got to talk to you in my office, which is his locker. And I'm like, what's up, Willie? And he's like, I want you to know that the players really like you here. Everybody loves you. We voted you equal share. It's called a player share, so you get an actual full share. And in my head, I'm like, you better have did that for me. I'm thinking that, but of course I was like, oh, Willie, that's awesome. And I get all emotional and start crying and stuff. The next day, I don't know if you guys follow baseball, but Josh Hamilton, he's about to catch a fly ball, and his sun gets in his eyes. He drops the ball. That team loses. It's just the way it worked out. The Mariners won, but someone else had to lose. And so we did. It was just like, oh my God, why did you tell me that now? Because I was so sad. So I ended up not getting anything. The consolation prize was like $800, and gift certificate to El Gaucho or something. So anyway, yeah. So that's another reason that I love the Mariners, but imagine getting a check that says thank you, Seattle Mariners, $80,000, all in one time. So it's really hard to just walk away from that job. But it's not, like I said, it's not about the money. It'd be awesome. I've been doing it. We haven't made the playoffs since 2001, 16 years.
Come up with the Ichiro wings.
Oh yeah, so the stuff I made for you guys today. So when I first Okay, imagine this. First day at Safeco Field, and Edgar Martinez walks in. Again, it's Edgar. He doesn't even remember the story I told you already. He doesn't know who I am. But I'm just freaking out that he's in the kitchen with me. And he's like, can you make me some pasta? I was like, sure. So I made this fettuccine Alfredo, and then I just threw some marinara sauce in it. And he loved it. And those guys are really superstitious. So he asked me to make that for him like every day. And so we call it Edgar's Pasta. And it became, I sell it on my menus now as Edgar's Pasta. People, it's just something that Edgar ate all the time. He ate that and bananas, which is just kind of silly. And then the wings are a funny story. When the Mariners called me in the offseason, they say, hey, we got this Japanese guy. You know, how's your Japanese cooking? And I was like, ugh, I can make teriyaki, you know. So I studied and learned some dishes, and I was really excited about making this guy some Japanese food. And the very first day, he comes in and he goes, do you have a cheeseburger? I was so deflated. I was like, really? I said, man, you want a cheeseburger? I didn't have a cheeseburger. And so I had just started marinating these wings, like Latin style. I had like lime juice and garlic, and so I just dumped a bunch of teriyaki sauce. And I was like, Mexiyaki! And Ichiro was like, okay, I'll try it. And then, so he ate those wings, and he had a really good game. And so then he's like, please, tomorrow, wings again. And you know, his English was terrible. And so I made them again, and then again. Then after like a week straight, I just started having them ready. And fast forward 10 years, the entire decade that he played for us, he ate those wings every single day. Wow. Because it was just a superstitious thing. I don't even know if he liked them, but he ate he ate them because that's what he ate when it was just weird. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So it sounds like many times you had to take a leap of faith, right? Like
Yes.
You didn't know, am I gonna have a job? Is there gonna be an income?
Right.
But you loved what you did and you just did it.
Exactly.
How do you psych yourself to get to that point? I have plans.
Right.
But I'm too afraid to do anything with them because what do I do about health insurance for my child?
Right.
I have a parent
See,
with me.
oh, it's such a good question.
How do you psych yourself to that point where you say, sometimes you've got to take that?
You got to just take I mean, I don't know how else to tell you that I did have a good support group. I have a really big family and a tight family, and we didn't have a lot of money, but we have each other. And I always go, okay, what's the worst that could happen? I get all the Mariners sick. I lose everything, and I can still go live in my parents' house. At the time, I didn't have kids, you know, and I didn't have a family, so I was like, I didn't have a lot. So if you don't got nothing to lose, it's easier to, you know, and I think that was what's easier for me. And like your situation, like now I would never do what I'm doing. Like I would never have, like my scenario now, I have 2 kids, we're in good school out in the Maple Valley area, and I have a wife who straightens me out when I do stupid things, you know. But I had so many people telling me that I couldn't do it and you shouldn't do it. That made me want to do it because I'm kind of a fighter too. I'm like, man, if you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it then. I want to do it just to prove you wrong. So I don't even know how to answer that in a correct way, except I just say just do it because you don't ever want to regret not doing it, you know. That's my thing too. I just, you know, I look back and I'll go, man, what if I didn't just sneak into the clubhouse that day? You know, I mean, so many little butterfly effect things, and you kind of just gotta just go for it because things will work themselves out, which I've learned. I mean, from losing a house, I mean, I feel like now, like, not a lot of things kind of phase me. I'm like, man, I already lost a house. That's not a big deal, you know, even though it was a huge deal. You kind of get hardened, and you get a little more brave. You get tougher, and you realize that you got to not always worry about what people think too, because you know you're a good person, you know you're doing a great product, and your purpose is good. You know, no matter what you're doing, then I think things will just work themselves out. I just believe that. So, yeah, I guess I don't know if I've even answered your question, but kind of. Just do it.
Was your first license, the business license, a catering one or personal chef?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a personal chef license.
Was it 32?
Yeah, it was super cheap. Yeah, I was like, really, $32? And then I was like, so you know, I go to Fred Meyer and it's like, make your own business cards. You know, I mean, I literally had no idea what I was doing, but I knew that I had cooked for these famous people, and I had a working relationship with them. And they had told me, hey, if you ever do your own business, I'll hire you, you know, and they did. And just, I guess just being personable and being friendly and being honest and true. And, you know, because it's a lot for these people to invite you into their home, especially when you get into the Gates level. Because as time went on, I got my first call we were catering, they were doing a Microsoft commercial, and they were catering it at Bill Gates' house. And so it was like my first call as my company to go work there. It was like this big deal. And the funny thing was, my catering van at the time was my lowrider van, and it had hydraulics on it. And so me and my partner, Kenny, we have chef coats, and we have shell-top Adidas, and we get out the car, and we're like, yeah, we're at Bill Gates' house right now, you know? It's just like this monumental moment. And then there was also the time where, because I cooked there quite often for a while, so what I did is I had my wife pick me up. At the time, she was my girlfriend, and I had her pick me up. I was like, I gave her the address. I was like, I can't really tell you, where you're going. So she gets there, and this guard with all these gates open up, and she pulls in, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is Bill Gates' house. And I was like, oh yeah, I just hang out here. So she always teases me about that now, because I tricked her and trying to show off where I was working. Yeah, but what's that?
Bill Gates tip well?
No, not at all. I mean, it was always you deal with other people, and I stepped on his foot one time. I was like looking at his house and looking at all these amazing things, and I just stood right on his foot, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's like the most interaction I really had with him. But yeah, so.
Can you tell a story like you told me? I still laugh about the day when Mattel was playing with Griffey, and he got mad. He left the ball field, and Griffey came in and said, "Why didn't you stop him?"
Oh yeah. Milton Bradley.
Milton Bradley, that's it. Yeah.
So Milton Bradley, if you guys remember him as a player, really bad attitude. You guys feel free. There's like 3 more pans of pasta and chicken over there if you're hungry, whatever. Yeah, please load up. So Milton Bradley, he storms out, and you're never supposed to leave the ballpark in uniform, and he came storming through my kitchen, and he knocked over all my spices, and he was just throwing a tantrum, which he did often. And Griffey comes and he's yelling at me. He goes, why didn't you stop him? And I'm like, man, I don't get paid like that. I'm not trying to step in front of that guy. And the funny part to that story is Eric Wedge was the coach, and he was a really tough guy, And he came in the next day, and he told me, so a lot of people didn't know this, but Miguel Olivo was kind of a fighter. He was known as he was kicked off a team for beating up his coach, kind of a guy. Really nice guy, but just don't cross him. Well, I'm sitting there cooking, and Eric Wedge is in my kitchen telling Olivo, he's like, you need to beat his ass tomorrow. And I was like, what kind of coaching is this? This is Seattle Mariners, and he's telling these guys to fight. But he's like, that guy, he just needs a good, needs a good run-in. So, and Olivo's like, I'm gonna do it. If I do it, I go all the way. And whatever that means, I don't know. So anyway, yeah, there was all these, you see all this behind the scenes stuff that you're just like, whoa, I'm like, what is all the way? Does that mean like, kill him and hide the body kind of thing? But the funny thing about that time real quick is he stormed out and he forgot his car keys. So, he made this big dramatic exit, and then he had to come back in and get his keys out of his locker. And Griffey's yelling at me for not stopping him, and it was just funny. But so many fun stories. I always joked with Griffey because when I was a big fan at the Kingdom, I wanted to catch a home run from Ken Griffey Jr. Like, that was a big deal to me. And when I got to know him, he was like, man, your big ass can't even catch. And he would say all these things to me. And so his last home run, I'm in, because a lot of times I'll cook early so I can just go out and sit in the outfield just to enjoy like an inning or two. I'm sitting in the outfield, and they're like, Ken Griffey Jr., they bring him in to pinch hit. And there's only like 2 games left in the season. And I'm like, man, what if he hits a home run, So, because I have the all access badge. And if you guys know Safeco Field, the people in the outfield, there's a little wall, then there's like a little walking area. Well, I have access to get down there because of my badge that I wear out all the time. I'm like, yes, all access. And he hits the ball, and it's coming. I can see it, and it just skips over the wall. And I mean, like from here to the window, I could see that ball I go running down there and I grab it and I'm like, I got his home run. I'm freaking out. So I run all the way down into the dugout and I'm like, Griffey, I got your ball. And he's like, oh, hell no. There's no way that's the ball. So I'm like, dude, I blew a hammy. I'm like, I'm trying to. It's so funny. So he doesn't believe me. So I had to go to the camera guy because we have the camera room. And I'm like, see, there I am. You see me running down and go get it. And then Griffey's like, what are you going to do with it? And like, this is the one thing I've wanted my whole career as a Mariner fan. And I'm like, I want $1 million, you know, but I'm not going to, because I'm like, this could be your last home run. And then I just said, man, I want to give it to you. But it gets like, then I get all emotional. Like, I was like, I just want you to have it because this could be your last one. Because he wasn't sure if he was going to retire yet. And I just said, I just want a hug, man. Every time you see me, I want a hug. I want some love from you. Because, you know, Griffey's he's cooler than everybody, you know. And so we had this great little moment. And I gave him the ball. And I saw him just a few months ago. And he told me it's still on his mantle. And then, so when he did come back the next year, but he played for a couple months, but he never hit another home run. And every time he was up to bat, I was like, don't do it, because I wanted it to be the last one. And then you guys know about the story when he just left off into the sunset. You know, I made him the same thing every day, made him just like quesadillas and salsa, and I had it all ready for him. He didn't show up. And all of a sudden on the news, they're like, Ken Griffey Jr. was spotted in Idaho. Because everyone in the clubhouse was like, where's Griffey? He's not here. He just decided to retire, and he just hopped in his car and just drove to Florida and didn't tell anybody or anything. It was just over. So, yeah, there's so many intimate, great moments like that, you know.
But you must feel like a kid every time you walk.
Oh, man. It's terrible. I'm 44 years old, and I still act like a kid down there. When Russell Wilson comes to the stadium a lot, and I have fed all the security guards. When I know Russell Wilson's there, I totally pretend that it's accidental that I bump into him. But so the security guards are like, Chef J, Russell Wilson, he's in hall number 3, coming your way. And I just casually open the door. Hey, Russ, what's up, man? Oh, good to see you. Hey, come on in. I've made him dinner. He introduced me to Sierra last time, and I got pictures with him. I'll show you guys pictures. I got all kinds of pictures with all these famous people. Totally just I just pretend that it's like it was an accident, but not really.
Dave, thanks for being here today and sharing your story and your battles. It's just really interesting, fascinating. The thing I'm picking up from you is you have that passion for what you do.
Yeah.
And I think that showed here, and I know that shows on the faces of all the Mariners and everybody else that you cater to.
Yeah, I honestly, I have a really, I don't know what you call it, like say guilty conscience, or like, if I do an event, I really want I want the people to have a good time. I want them to feel like they got their money's worth. I mean, passionately. I really care what people think about me, and that's been a hard thing. Like I was saying earlier, you have to learn to not get upset if people criticize you, or, you know, I've had players yell at me and like scold me over. Sean Figgins blew me up one day because he didn't like something I made, but everyone else loved it, you know, so you just have to, you got to fight through that part of it. But you're right. I'm very passionate, and I take a lot of pride in what I do. And I don't talk a lot about the cooking, but I mean, when I'm cooking at the Mariners, you're live. I mean, you're making stuff like they call it a la minute. Like they order it, you're cooking it, and you're giving it to them, and they're watching. Sometimes they're hovering over you, which is, some chefs would hate that. There's no structure. There's music playing, and it's chaos, and you have to really learn to just focus on what you're doing, still try to do a good job, and yeah, but I do take a lot of pride in everything. Like I said, it goes back to, I worry about what people say about me, you know, or think of me. So,
Is there a difference between catering a high-end event like the Gates versus just a standard wedding or something like that?
Yeah, the Gates thing. I mean, everything from you have to sign a release form that you've never been arrested since 7th grade. I mean, they go way back, and you can't. I had a waitress who was walking around passing hors d'oeuvres. Secret Service stopped her, and they said, ma'am, you got caught shoplifting back in '93, you're out of here. They took her out of the house. So it's super stressful. I would rather do a wedding with me and another cook and a couple waitresses for 500 people than do a dinner for 10 for Bill Gates, just because the pressure is just. And I did so much high-end cooking, and it was so fun, and I'm glad I did it. but I would rather do the Mariners because when I'm down there, I don't have to wear chef clothes. I got my hat on backwards. I'm in shorts. I look like a fan who got luckily let in, you know. And the music is always bumping. And that leads us to the story of the baseball. So I don't know how much, I'll talk you guys, got stuff to do, but a quick story. Kyle Seager, one of the greatest people you guys will ever meet, just a fabulous human being. He was having a really tough time, and he just was struggling. And these guys, you know, they get paid a ton of money, so they feel that pressure, and when they start pressing, they don't perform. And he walked in, and I was playing one of my favorite songs called "Blow the Whistle" by Too Short. And the song was bumping, and I was like, Seager, man, you need to loosen up, bro. I said, you know what you need? Because he eats grits, and he's from North Carolina, and they just eat plain grits down there. And I was like, first of all, I'm not a big grits guy. I made a lot of stuff that I don't eat. I'm like, you need some bacon. You need something good in these grits. And I was like, you know what? There's hits in those grits if you let me put some bacon in there. And then so I'm pumping them up. Imagine this: the music's bumping, and the beat's cracking, and I start popping on them, and I chop up the bacon, right? I got the bacon just right here. I was like, you ready, Seager? And he's bouncing around. He's like, I'm ready. So I gave him one of these, and I went, bam! And I put the bacon in his grits, and he hit 2 home runs that day. And then he went on like a major tear. Like he would hit like 15 home runs in like a month or some crazy thing. And in his mind, it was because of that, you know? So, and I don't know, I mean, whatever. But at the moment, it got him psyched up. We won the game. He got home runs. He got an $80 million contract. I'm like, hey, I'm still over here, you know. No, but.
Since Edgar got the pitching coach thing, are you looking now on the
Yeah.
good foods there? You guys glued?
Yeah, Edgar helps me. He teaches me. He's teaching me even to eat healthier. He's like, Chef Jay, no more pizza for you. You know, Edgar's the lead by example guy. He won't tell somebody what they're doing wrong. If you ask him, he'll come and show you and tell you, but he'll never just. A lot of players didn't really like him at first because he's so quiet. They were like, what's the story with this guy? Is he too cool? I'm like, no, you have to just engage yourself with Edgar. But yeah, it's kind of, we have a nutrition that follows me around and helps me because Monica Van Winkle, she's from the UW. She was the nutritionist for the team. And now she helps me at the Mariners, and she's amazing, helping me keep the guys healthy. Because I'll make them bacon wrap everything every day if I could.
Who selects the music for
What's that?
Who selects the music for the locker room?
So the players have their own locker room music, and I have my own kitchen music. Okay. And my music is usually hip hop or old soul, or, you know, once in a while I'll throw a crazy, you know, mega metal song in there or something to get the guys going. But yeah, we have a really, really good time down there, and we're so close to making the playoffs. Oh my gosh, taking you guys all to Mexico if we go. I said if I get my playoff check, I'm just gonna blow it all like MC Hammer. I waited like 20 years for this check, and I'm just gonna spend it all in one shot. But
If anybody wants to pop with.
oh yeah. Tom was like, if anybody wants to pop, they could get the autographed baseball. But I don't want to put you guys through that. You got to have the music, man. I can't. Like Seager's asked me, he's like, Jay, show my wife that move you did. I'm like, nah, I gotta have Too Short on. You can't just. Yeah. But it's pretty funny because he's a country music guy, and he only listens to hip hop when he's in the kitchen with me. And I have videos on my phone of Seager getting all ready, you know, just before he puts his uniform on. And I think they made up a T-shirt that says "Hits in the Grits." The players will wear it around the clubhouse on Sundays because, you know, I think he has the record is crazy. Like, it's like 15 home runs on days that I did the dance. So the dance, every time I give him the grits, the pop locking gets a little bit more. You know, I'm getting old now, man. I start getting cramps and stuff. But so Seager brings the whole team in. Imagine like 20 guys in the kitchen, and the music's going, and I got my bacon over here, and I start doing my moves and moonwalk over to it, and then I'll like throw it up, and then, you know, he'll catch it in the the hits in the grits has become it's a silly. They did a thing on it on Evening Magazine just recently. There's a link on that. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a funny story.
YouTube video?
There's no YouTube video, but they took a little clip of me dancing and they put it on Evening Magazine. My wife was so mad at me. My kids were like, Dad, really? Did you have to put that on there? It's kind of funny. But just the whole point of everything, you guys, is just have fun, man. It's really important because, you know, life is short and you gotta be happy. You don't want to hate going to work. So that's my best advice I can give you. And call me if you're about to start a business, and if you think it's, you know, it might be wrong, call me and I'll be like, don't do that. Because I was telling him earlier, I have a $50,000 debt that I'm paying off because I've donated so many events. So here I am, I'm donating. I'm a broke guy who donates, right? Because I have this connection to the Mariners and I could get autographs and I donate a lot of stuff. It makes me feel good. I'm happy to help. I want to help inner city kids, everything. But I'm being penalized by the IRS because I didn't collect the certain fee that is involved. My accountant has explained it to me, and I still don't get it. So make sure you get an accountant who understands that, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so anyway, you gotta really pay attention to all the serious, from giving away events to just to everything. So, well, thank you guys. There's to-go boxes if you want to take any pasta and stuff. Yeah, any questions, please.